California's rural counties, and unfortunately some of the poorest counties in the state, are about to lose funding for schools and roads. This is not just a California issue, it applies to a lot of counties. If the Rural School Funding Act doesn't pass, which was supposed to pass last year. Our guest today is Jamie Green, who's the superintendent of Trinity Alps School District in California. He's here to tell us what's going on with this funding. Jamie, it's great to have you on. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very honored.
We want to talk to you about your school district, and you guys are about to lose some funding.
Yes. So I'm the Trinity Alps Unified School District Superintendent. I work for 5 wonderful people that are publicly elected board members, and I really believe in parent choice in our schools. So we have a community that the entire community is involved in the decisions we make. Since 1908, our district has been receiving funding from the Secure Rural Schools Act that Teddy Roosevelt passed. So in 1908, in 38 states, they created national forests. And Teddy Roosevelt and Congress said, we need to preserve land for the American people. It was a beautiful act so that somebody from LA gets to drive right up to Weaverville, and it's public property. So we're one state, one nation, and we have high alpine lakes. We have a giant lake down in the basin. So we're recreation for a lot of people. But the problem with that is when they created it, is schools are paid for, schools and roads are paid for by taxes. So if the federal government owns 80% of your county, which they do in ours, then the tax money can only be collected off of 20%. But because so many people are coming there, you need safe roads to get there, and you need schools. The Teddy Roosevelt and Congress recognized we will give an allotment of money to 700 counties that are surrounded by national forest lands. So from 1908 until about 2000, that worked out really well. In 2000, because of environmental concerns and endangered species acts, logging almost halted in the forest.
Was the money coming from
So
logging?
the money was coming from logging. So the schools and the roads would get a percent of the logging revenues. So if the trees were in Trinity County and the tree was worth $1,000, the school might get $5 off the tree. Whatever it was an allotment. But when they stopped logging, the funding stopped. So in 2000, Mr. Crapo, Senator Crapo and Senator Wyden, Oregon and Idaho got together and said, let's form the Secure Rural Schools Act of 2000 and let's give allotments to all 700 counties so they could have safe roads and they could have schools. So that was from 2000 until last year, 2024, it's been funded. And they reauthorize it every 3 years. And a lot of people would like it to see it be longer. So last year, it made it through the Senate on a hotline vote where 100% of the senators voted to reauthorize it, and it got stalled at the House. And we all understand, Democrat or Republican, they were all working really hard in the House. There was just a lot going on. So it didn't make it through the 118th Congress. So the 700 counties, which we're one of, we're really nervous. There's 4,400 school districts, there's 700 counties, and to put it in perspective, just in Trinity County, 23% of our road department budget is from Secure Rural Schools. That means they're going to have to lay off probably 30 to 40% of their staff. And that means we're going to have unsafe roads. In my district, it's 5% of our budget, and I have 100 employees, so I'm going to have to lay off 5 employees.
So for schools, like?
Just my school, I'll have to lay off 5 employees. In the county, they're going to have to lay off maybe 30% of their employees. And if you say that's one county, and I'm only part of one county, right? I'm one school district of 10 in our county, and I'm going to have to lay off 5 people. What about the other 4,400 school districts? So thousands of hardworking Americans, patriots in education and road workers are going to be laid off if they don't pass this bill by May of this year.
Now, what's the impact of this on your school if you have to do the layoff?
It's absolutely brutal. So I have to cut 5% of my budget. So what I have to do is work with the CBO and our administrative team, and we have to make some choices we don't want to make. Are we going to cut an after-school program? Are we going to cut a music program? Are we going to cut an art program? Are we going to cut, the after-school program where we serve kids? So what I'll have to do in March, if this doesn't pass, is I'll have to go to the board, and more importantly, our entire community. We're a community school, and say, guys, we got to cut what hurts the least. And those are decisions that is derailing us from focusing on what we're supposed to be focusing on, is educating children. It's going to be really tough choices. And if I'm one of 4,400 There's 4,399 other school districts that has to do the same thing in March. So they still have a short window where they could do it retroactive and pass it in the 119th Congress. And I'm just begging the Speaker to find it in his heart to look at this and see how important it is and say, okay, it didn't make it in the 118th. No hard feelings, sir. Please look at how important this is to rural America.
And how much money is this?
It is $250 million. So as Congressman Lamalfa said, and I love him, he goes, Jamie, this is budget dust. We could get this through. And he tried really hard to get it through. Congressman Huffman, his neighbor, one's a Democrat, one's a Republican, same thing, said we could get this through. And both of them, and so many people in DC tried to get it through, it just got blocked. And we really don't know why. We've never heard a specific reason of why it never got put on the House floor.
On the statewide, are you getting enough support from the state?
Absolutely. Our state cares deeply about our children. People will argue about this philosophy or that philosophy, but the state bends over backwards. I have to tell you that as a superintendent in the poorest county, how blessed I am to have the support I have from the state of California. They care deeply about students. This is a federal issue because that's federal land that we cannot tax. That's not a state issue. If we could collect property taxes, or more importantly, if they would log our forests, we would have the money to run our school. But when you froze logging, you froze the income. So I at all don't think this is a state problem at all. I think it's a federal issue, and we are the United States of America, and it's not just me, it's 38 other states.
And these rural counties everywhere where they have forests are
Yes, so
impacted.
it's where the national forests were created by the 1908 Congress. So they created it. They also created this income saying that they will not be able to do roads. They recognized it in 1908. They will not be able to run schools, and they will not be able to have safe roads unless we give them payments. And so the payments were you would get a portion of the mining or the recreation money or the logging. And by the year 2000, the federal government stopped running the forest like a business. My family and I are very blessed. For $40,000 and up there, we bought 80 acres that are forest that we plan on logging someday. And we've been sitting on it, and I hope my grandchildren can log it. If I don't pay my taxes and those tax dollars go to my school, the state will take my land. I have to pay taxes on my 80 acres. If I don't pay my taxes, they take it. Well, the federal government owns 80% of my county, and they don't want to pay anything. If you look at Trinity County economically, how important it is. Yes, we're the most impoverished county. Billions of dollars of water get sent to the Central Valley out of Trinity County. We don't get a dime for that. We have energy that we create on the Trinity Dam. We export 90% of the energy that we create into the WAPA lines, and it goes to the rest of California. We don't get a dime for that. And so we're trying to run on the economy that's doing okay. We have a mill that's absolutely fabulous. We have a hospital that's fabulous. So they help us there, but we don't have the property taxes to run the school the way we want to. And it's simple. Teddy Roosevelt, Panama Canal, 1908. We need to give these schools money. And it's in Montana, it's in Idaho, it's all throughout the country. My story is the exact same as everybody else's.
Now, you mentioned this is an impoverished county, Trinity County.
We're a proud county.
Why is it?
Because our average income is the lowest in the state of California. Our people work very hard, and there's just not high-paying jobs there. We're a mill town. We're a mill town, and we are proud to be a mill town. Right in the center of our town is a mill. If we lost that mill, we'd lose our town. So it's a blue-collar town of very proud people where everybody loves everybody. There's no Democrat, Republican there. People just love each other. And when you have less, you have to work harder. You don't work less, you don't become a victim. When you have less, you have to work harder. All of our people pitch in to make it work.
Did anybody challenge you that why should we have to pay?
So this is unbelievable. We went, my board president and I and our CBO went 7 times to Washington, D.C. Not one person told us no. We met with dozens of senators, U.S. senators. We met with countless House members. Not one, whether it was Freedom Caucus or whether it was Bernie Sanders, everybody we met with said they supported it. We did not have one person say, hey, get over it, we can't afford that. They all supported it. That's why I'm so kind of mind blown right now. It's not through, but I've also learned nothing's over until it's over. So we need to get back to those patriots and say, guys, you missed something. You missed 700 counties. And if you were going to, it's a bipartisan issue, but if you were to talk politics, 84% of those 700 counties voted red. And it made it through the Senate, which was blue at 100% vote, but 100% vote is red and blue. So the Senate said this is completely bipartisan. It got held up by the Republican House, where 84% of the people that lived in those counties that get that money are red. And I just want to get that message to the Speaker. I want it to be bipartisan, but I think it's important that if people elect you, that you look at how it affects them. So that means 84% of those people want secure rural schools. They want safe roads. They want safe schools. I just don't think he's got that message yet.
And in terms of the public education, what's the value of that to your county?
So how do you break the poverty cycle? You know, what child in this country is going to cure a strain of cancer? Is it a kid in a poor county in Arkansas? Is there a kid up in Maine, in very impoverished Maine? We are America. We are the most powerful nation in the world. We should have strong education for each and every child. The solutions, the problems of today are going to be solved by a second grader. And maybe it's that kid in impoverished Arkansas. So if we don't put all of our time and money and be efficient with our money, be efficient, give us what we need and be efficient, that's how we're going to change this world. That's how we're going to promote freedom throughout the world. That's how we're going to make sure that freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, we have to teach our young kids. If we try to get into some situation where we're privatizing education and we're only educating this child because they're from this family and not educating that child because they're from that family, we're dead wrong. We don't know what beautiful minds are in our kindergartens right now. We should be feeding those minds everywhere. Every child should have a high quality education. Public education in America is what will keep America strong. Do I believe in school choice? Absolutely. If parents want to send their child to a religious school or a charter school that focuses, they should absolutely be able to do that. I'm not against that at all. But I think our public schools have to set a standard that every child gets everything they need. And in this situation, the federal government pretty much snubbed rural America by 84% of the voters, and they didn't put it up. So it's so important we get that message to them, because I don't want that first grader in Arkansas not to have the textbook that they need.
And this funding,
it's a lifeline. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm here. I've went to Washington, D.C. 7 times. It is a lifeline. It is crucial for our kids. And I won't be a victim. If it doesn't come, I don't know how many cookies we have to bake, or if I start logging the forest myself, go up, say, hey, sorry, federal government, I've got to pay bills, and I go cut some trees down and sell them to the mill. I'm joking, federal government. But we're not being victims. We're just asking them to fulfill their promise of 1908.
And the time has kind of ran out, right?
Oh, only me in the world probably thinks we still have a great chance, because I'm an optimist and I believe that people love people and they'll do whatever. It was supposed to pass by the 118th Congress. So on January 3rd, or the 119th Congress, I met with our team, we need to work harder now. We haven't worked hard enough. We haven't got to the right people. We can't let this message slip. We're honestly talking about thousands of kids being undereducated, unsafe road conditions, and thousands of amazing people that are working in education. Our educators are overworked and underpaid, and we're going to reward them by laying them off. It is so hard to get people to go into education. I don't want to lay off any of them. I can't run my district with one less person. They are so essential. When you're in a small town, and it's the whole thing, it's a poverty barrier. We get our kids to colleges across the country. We put them to lineman school. We are so proud of our graduates. We break the poverty cycle on a daily basis in Trinity County. And then we ask them all, go away, get educated, get a skill, and move back. And we've been encouraging, and we've had a big movement of students that moved out, went across the country, and they've been moving back to Trinity County. We can't let rural America die. We just cannot let rural America die. There's so many values and cultures. Urban America is important. Suburban America is important, but so is rural America. And right now the sidewalks are rolling up across the country. We need to put industries in rural America. I would love for a lot of people from Southern California to move to my county, to add to add what they could add culturally, what they could add intellectually, and it would be beautiful. I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, but if we don't have enough people there working, we can't sustain it.
Now, this funding is supposed to come to you guys every May, right?
It comes every May, but it was supposed to be funded by January 2nd, and it was not. So officially it is not happening this year. But if they funded it by May, no harm, no foul, no layoffs.
And now for those of us that don't know much about Trinity County, and you represent a lot of other counties that are similar.
Yeah.
How's it like growing up there?
It's beautiful. I raised both my kids there. So there's 13,000 people live in a county the size of Rhode Island. So it's in the summer, we might have more visitors than we do citizens, that live there, but it's rural. So you can go hike, there's hiking, there's hunting, there's fishing, there's a giant lake. Trinity Lake is just absolutely beautiful, 27 miles long. We live in paradise. And so it's a simple life, it's slow. My daughter just moved, and I'm so happy she moved home. She has a kindergartner, and she has a TK, and she just moved home. And she realized as a parent that she loved growing up in Trinity County because it's slower, everybody knows everybody, and everybody helps everybody. It's that real Mayberry small town effect where everybody's there for everyone. So you don't want to honk at somebody because 10 minutes later you're going to see them in the market. So it's like you have to be nice to each other. Like down here, people aggressively drive. If you honk at somebody, you're going to see them at the gas station, you're going to see them at church. So people just learn how to get along. So it's a beautiful place. I feel so blessed to work where I work and who I work for, and our kids are blessed to be able to go there.
We are honored to be sponsored by Shenyun. I've been attending Shenyun performances every year as they change the choreography and music. Shenyun takes you back in time to the magical world of ancient China with unique blend of brilliant dancing, beautiful costumes, and legends coming to life. Overall, it's a very meaningful performance with a lot more than just entertainment to offer. Make sure to go see it this year. Go to shenyun.com and book your tickets today. I highly recommend it.
People nowadays go to the doctors, the psychiatrists for pills, for antidepressants. This is the antidepressant, the best.
I knew it was going to be good. It's a billion times better than I even thought it would be.
I'd heard people say, you don't want to miss this, and I would fully agree.
I'm going to tell everyone to come see it. You have to.
Definitely going to come back next year.
Totally inspirational. You have to go see this.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime must-see that will change their lives forever.
Now, Jamie, you have been going back and forth to DC. You've been working very hard on this.
When we first went, I didn't really know what we were doing. But when I first went, and then we started meeting with superintendents from other states, and I'm like, we're all the same. We all have the same issues. We all have the same problems. If we would just get together and solve those problems together, then we can definitely improve the education across the country. We got to get out of our silos. It doesn't need to be California does this, Idaho does that, New York does this. We need to find out what the best possible way to educate our children is and replicate it. It needs to be a system. It doesn't need to be everybody figure it out on their own. You don't have California build their own cars, and then Michigan builds their cars, and then Idaho builds their cars, right? We're America. Why are we not going across the country with best practices and running the highest level education that we can? We need to get our stuff together. We need to work together. If somebody has a good practice, copy it. If you have a bad practice, stop using it. There's a lot of improvement that needs to happen to our education system.
You have this drive to improve the education system. Where does it come from?
So I made a promise to my mom. When I was in 5th grade, my mom got breast cancer, and she fought for 3 years, and I was with her every step of the way. I used to be able to push her across the street. We moved next to the hospital to do chemo. She was a very religious Catholic. She would read the Bible to me every night, and she knew she wasn't going to be there very long, and I was her youngest. So she was able. I have the most amazing family. My brothers and sisters are amazing, but I was the one that was there. So in 5th grade and 6th grade, and she made me promise her on her deathbed that I would not make money, that life was not about money, that I would help people. Because I said, Mom, I'll do anything for you. She goes, you go into a job where you can make everybody else's life better, put yourself second, put yourself third, put yourself fourth, put everybody else out there, and just change the world. And I made that promise to her when she passed away when I was in 8th grade. That was my promise, and I've honored it. And I'm going to honor it until my heart stops beating. So that she was the most caring, loving, strongest. I mean, she held on way too long. She wanted to live until I became a man. She had her leg amputated, had her arm amputated at my 8th grade graduation. And I remember there, and like I own one of these. She bought me one of these then. And I remember her sitting there in a wheelchair just smiling. And 2 weeks after I graduated, she passed. She told me I was a man and it was my time. So she taught me how to love. She taught me how to forgive, because you have to be able to forgive if you want to be successful in life. And that's been my passion until my heart stops beating. So that's why I don't just want to help the kids from Trinity Alps Unified. Of course, I'm their superintendent. I want to do everything in my power. But what about that school in Montana? What if somebody just loved them a little bit, or reached out and went to DC and say, please give them this essential funding? This is going to be catastrophic if it doesn't happen. I'm sorry. I'm so nervous about this, but May's not here yet, right? And we could still go to DC and we could still work with these people. They're patriots. They're good people. When you get to meet, don't believe what you see on the news. You need to go meet these people individually, like Ralph Norman. They're amazing human beings that love our country, but you have to tell your story. Juliana Letlow, she's a Republican from Louisiana. I'll tell you this story because it was beautiful. So we have sent registered letters, which we heard from a mailman was like, so we'll send registered letters from our district to every senator and to every House person. Well, they have to sign for those. So one time we're in the hallway and this guy goes, Trinity Alps. I was wearing a shirt. He goes, took me 4 days to do your last mailing. I'm like, does anybody else do that? He goes, nope. So
you're making them sign at delivery.
They
so
have to sign. We send it registered, and it's just like, hello, congressperson, we love you to death. Will you please help us? So we built that relationship with persistence. So one day I had the idea I could go to every Senate office and just hand a personal letter, right? You just zip around, because now I know how to do DC. You go into Mr. Hawley's office, Mr. Vance's office, and you give them a letter. They're awesome people. They shake your hand. Tennessee's office. And I had one left, and I think this is spiritual. I had one letter left, and I was going through the House. Well, there's 435 House members. I have a lot of energy, but not that much. So that night, the last one I had, they were closing up. I went into Congressman, I looked her up, Congresswoman Letlow from Louisiana is big into education. And so I gave a letter, and her staff person was there, and I gave her my business card. And I said, you know what? I've been in every office here. Not one person has ever called me. I just want one phone call. And I just said that kind of there. And I'm laying in my room that night. I'm exhausted. Like I had just been going. And I saw a call from Louisiana, a number I didn't know. Thank goodness I answered it. And she called and said, Mr. Green, you're a hardworking superintendent. I'd like to help you with education across our country. She gave me her cell phone number. And that meant so much to me, because I was about broken that nobody was listening. And so she is another person we made friends with that wants to see education improve. She's concerned about education in Louisiana. So I would like to work with her in California, maybe have some sister schools, like have my school with the rural Louisiana school, and actually do the work. Like take what they're doing great in Louisiana, take what we're doing great in California, put it together and improve. The way we're going to fix education is together. We're not doing it in silos. Everybody wants to complain about it, but nobody wants to fix it. And somebody like Congresswoman Letlow wants to see education for every child. I know that in her heart.
And you have seen a bipartisan, you've kind
It's
of seen...
absolutely bipartisan. In fact, I'm kind of a smart aleck, so I could say something like to the Republican next door neighbor, hey, so-and-so said he loved you, and like, knock it off. Let's talk about the issue. But I've seen like Mr. Huffman and Mr. LaMalfa, they both sponsor full funding of IDA. They both sponsor secure rural schools. One is a Democrat, one is a Republican. They're next door neighbors in California, and they absolutely both love children. And that's what matters to me. The rest of the politics, that is what it is. But anybody in DC that loves children, we're going to try to advocate that they help us and give us what we need. We don't want landfall money. You can throw way too much money at education, I'll tell you that, and get no results at all. So this isn't a money issue. Don't write a check for $2 billion to every school. That's not going to make them any better. Hold every school accountable. Give them enough money to make it. With secure rural schools, if they cut 5% of my budget, we're making it right now. I'm super proud. Every teacher I have, every bus driver, every captain, they are heroes. They have the hardest jobs in the world. I welcome anybody in this country to come teach my kindergarten for 2 days. I mean, the toughest, strongest. It is really hard work, and our people are dedicated. To have to lay 5 of those people off, it's wrong. I don't want to do it. And the federal government can make that not happen. So I'm not asking them, hey, write me a check for $10 billion, I'll give you a good education system. No. We have the money we need right now. That's why I'm not asking the state of California for any more money. They've given us everything we need to be successful. The state superintendent, the governor, the assembly, the Senate, they've given Trinity Alps everything we need. I'm not going to say, hey, the federal government didn't pay, now you need to. This is simple. It's a 1908 promise from the federal government that they're going to give secure rural schools. With that 5% of my budget, I'm going to be fine. I'm not going to lay off anyone. It's 23% of our road department budget. They're not going to be fine if they don't get this. And I still think, and I so appreciate you letting me come here today, if the right person can listen to this, say, we need to do this, because it's just common sense.
And what's the impact on the roads?
Well, the roads, what if they can't salt roads? What if somebody that I care about gets in a wreck because they can't put salt? Because we have ice. We have snow, we have ice. If you don't have money, you can't fix roads. If you can't buy the materials, our roads could become very dangerous very quick. And in the world of lawsuits, I think Washington, D.C. should be smart enough for a $250 million, right, to fund 38 states, 700 counties. I think that's probably a bargain if something happens where somebody tries to litigate, right? I mean, they funded it since 1908.
Because these are all on federal land too, right?
It's all federal land. The feds don't come in and do your roads. The county has to do the roads. So the federal government owns 80% of the land. They'll do some dirt roads. Awesome. We're not traveling back and forth through the forest, but the roads that lead to the national forest that everybody in this country has access to, because where we live, it's beautiful, and any American can be on any of that land for free in all 38 states. I'm really glad they created it, and that's part of the beauty of living in Trinity County. But if they would just live up to their commitment of either logging or paying what they agreed to.
Now, Jamie, you dedicated your whole career to education. Has it been worth it?
Absolutely. I wouldn't want to do anything else in the world. If I had to do it over again tomorrow, I would do it. I started in a private Christian school and learned that people think like Christian schools are really wealthy. No, they're not. I mean, you have to clean your own classrooms and do that. Education is education. That's what I learned. I've been in private education and public education, and it's a calling. And people that are good at it, they put other people first, and they love kids, and they want to see other people succeed more than they want to see themselves succeed. So tomorrow I would do the exact same thing. I've been able to be a teacher, I've been able to be a coach, I've been able to be a counselor. Never, ever in my wildest dreams would I thought I would have been a superintendent. I was a brat. I was a teacher that always made fun of them. So all my superintendents, when I got the job, I had to go back and apologize to them, because you don't know what other people do until you do it. And now doing it, I'm like, okay, I appreciate everybody that have this job. I appreciate every superintendent in the state of California and across the country. It's not an easy job. People aren't very nice. So you have to be thick-skinned.
You mentioned that you invite everybody to come and do the teacher's job for 2 days.
Yeah.
And it would be...
It'd be fun.
Can you tell us...
Trump did fries for 10 minutes and he did garbage. I'd be like, okay, Mr. Trump, I would love to have you come teach my wife's second grade class for 3 days, and if it's super easy, you don't have to do rural schools. No, but see, if Mr. Trump was able to come, he would see how much we love our kids. He would sign that bill in a second. I think it just got lost in the noise.
And how is it to do that for 2 to 3 days?
Okay, I'll be honest with you, because I started teaching, and we didn't have subs one day, and I went into our first grade classroom, and I had a sub. I was terrible. The first grade teacher was like not happy with me, because the kids were like,
So you went in as a superintendent?
Well, I went in as a sub because we didn't have anybody in a small school district.
So you're covering for
And by the second day, the kids owned me. They were first graders. Like, I gave out erasers that were supposed to be only like prizes. And the first grade teacher's so sweet. She's been there for 30 years. She's like, Jamie, you're never allowed to sub for me again. Because it's really hard. Like, they have these systems. The kids all line up. They don't talk. They do their work. I have too much energy. I got it in there. The kids were jumping off the desks. I was like, I had to fire myself as a sub, because I taught high school, but elementary school teachers, they're incredible. You have to actually watch the control, and they don't work 8 hours a day. People like say, oh, a teacher, They only work 180 days a year. They only work 80 hours. Well, why are they there at midnight then? Are they just sleeping? They don't have a home? I mean, teachers work hard because their goal is for students to be successful. No one goes into education for the money. Hey, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to do that. In fact, my dad, who was from Texas, from West Texas, you know, so he married a Catholic Italian woman. And when I told him, I said, Dad, I was in my third year of college, I'm going to be a teacher. He looked me right in the eyes and goes, why do you want to be poor the rest of your life? I said, Dad, I promised Mom. He goes, you're going to be poor the rest of your life. And I said, whatever. I promised Mom before she died, because he was really frustrated with me. So he wasn't like, great move, son, you're awesome. And I've lived a great life, and I've raised 2 beautiful children, and I've been married for over 30 years, and my life has been wonderful. So being an educator, you could have a good life.
Was there any moments that made it worth it?
Oh my goodness, there's countless, and you could call any teacher in our district, and it's when you get through to that one kid. Maybe their parents have a really rough home life, and something's going on. There's that kid that makes it, that wouldn't make it without the personal touch. We had one student that I was teaching English 9 years ago, 25 years, and the student really wasn't able to read. And so I asked the student.
How old was he?
She's 9th grade. So she struggled with reading. So I asked her, and I said, hey, you're not doing your reading books. I need you to catch up. And she goes, we don't have power in our house. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have power in your house? She goes, we live across the creek out in blah, 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 and we don't have power in our house. And if I could read, Mr. Green, I would read all the time, but you got to tell my dad because, you know, at night we can't do any homework. And I mean, she could have read during the day, but I was able to call the dad, can I come out here? Bought her a lantern. And by the end of that year, she had went from, we had this star reading program that said she went from like a 5th grade, 5th month into 11th grade reading level because I brought her a lantern. Her dad said she could read inside of their 1-room cabin, but it captured her. And then she went on to get a college degree. But she was in that thing where if somebody wouldn't have noticed, why is your reading level so low? And you just talk to people. And I have thousands of those. Been so blessed from kids that I've taught over the years. You just have to love them, and you just have to believe in them. And then when I went from teaching to counseling, you get to tell people what they're good at. We don't focus in our district. Somebody's really bad with dribbling with their left hand in basketball. Then teach them something to overcome that. Don't always focus on what somebody's not good at. So we try to focus, try to mitigate that, right? Try to get better at what you're not good at, but then find out every child, every human has a super strength. So if you have a disability here, you got a super strength there, and we just try to focus on their super strength.
Now, for you, how did it feel to see that improvement in the reading?
It was everything. It's everything in the world to see people get better, to see people heal. When you have hurt people, because my mom taught me this. This is something I learned a long time ago. Hurt people hurt people. So if people are hurting, they hurt other people. So what she taught me is I would go to hurt people and talk to them, and how can you fix hurt people? How can we stop something from being systemic and going on forever? And so in education, it's not just to teach in the English and teach the social science, it's talking to people, and it's putting them in a situation where they could be healthy, getting somebody on a career path. We have kids that, when they're in high school, they end up being a lineman working for PG&E. They go to a 6-month school, they make $300,000 a year. And to encourage them, like, hey, what do you want to do? I don't know what I want to do. I want to be a professional baseball player. Awesome. There's not that much room for it. What else do you want to do? And you job shadow them. And like lineman has been something very popular out of our school. They make $150,000, $200,000, $300,000, and they get back to our school. It's phenomenal. So that's the biggest thing, is capturing what somebody's good at and giving them the self-confidence to go after it. Because all this anxiety and mental health and all that in schools, it's when kids don't see a future. So what are the schools doing? Are you talking about their anxiety? Can we talk another 3 hours about your anxiety? No. What are you going to do to not be anxious? What career are you going to do? Can you picture yourself in a 3-bedroom home? Can you picture yourself with a ski boat? Yeah, I could picture that. Then do you want to be an accountant? Because you're really good at math. What's an accountant? Show a kid what an accountant is. What does it take to be that? The kids that get in trouble and get themselves out of it all the time, I think you're already an attorney, so maybe we send you to school and you get your law degree. So that's what schools are doing across the country and should be doing, is encouraging people to become taxpayers. If we're doing a bad job in schools, we're producing tax consumers. People end, everybody goes to school in this country, they end and they don't get a job and they never get a job. That's a tax consumer. That's not helping the country. We're helping them because we love them, but if they could find a career, taxpayer. So in our district, our board says that we want to raise taxpayers, not tax consumers. And we put them out of the school and we get them either to junior college, four-year college, career. You know, they can go to, like I said, lineman school, they can learn how to pour concrete, and they can make a living. That's what we need to be doing with America's children right now, is giving them hope, not despair. Every child's good at something, find it and steer them that direction.
Jamie, we hope that you get the funding soon.
I pray that we get the funding. It's the biggest item we have in our district. And if we don't get the funding, we're going to make it. It's going to hurt. But we're not going to quit. We're not going to stop. We're not going to be victims. But I absolutely feel that we've worked hard enough. And it's been people across the country that the speaker can please look at this and just say, we need to do this. We need to give this to these 700 counties. Laying off thousands of educators is not going to make America better, is it?
Jamie Green, Superintendent with Trinity County, it was great to have you on California Insider.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, sure.
I really want to thank you for being an organization that puts the people first. And I followed you for a long time. You tell the truth. You're not political. And I want to thank you for the work that you do for all of us across the country.
Well, thank you so much for coming down.
I am very honored.
Thank you. We are honored to have you on. Let us know what you think about this funding for rural school communities in California. You can always reach out to me at cmike@californiainsider.com, and I always read your emails and comments. Thank you.